Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and our event to talk about monitoring, management, and also automation within a on-premise or in a cloud environment. So we've got Paul Bates with us today. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, very good. Thanks,
Yeah.
Lee.
So you're going to do us a bit of an introduction into what OpsRamp provides in that environment. So that discovery piece, understanding exactly what you've got, whether that's in public or private cloud. Also, how you then can use that information to actually get advantage of what's happening within that infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a whistle stop tour, but I'll give you a quick company and product introduction, Lee, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds really good to me. So do you want to get your slides ready to go? There we are, up and running with the slides as well.
There we go. Cool. Can you see my
I
screen?
can.
Are we good to
Yeah, we
go?
are.
Fantastic. So, thanks again, Lee. So, yeah, I'm responsible for sales in EMEA. I've been with OpsRamp just over 12 months. So, my background, I've actually come from the service provider space myself, and the reason I joined OpsRamp was actually because I saw the technology and saw the platform and understood that it solved a lot of the problems that service providers and enterprises have in managing complex hybrid multi-cloud IT. A quick insight into the company. We've been founded since 2014. We have a wide range of customers across service providers and the enterprise, including people like HPE, based out of California with the offices globally, just under 300 staff. So I mentioned the problem. I mean, what problem are we trying to solve? If you look at modern enterprise IT, what we're finding is, but if I look back in my career, what did I spend a lot of my time doing? I was helping my clients reduce data center platforms, consolidate servers, consolidate storage, and all about simplification and consolidation. What we're finding now is the market is going in rapidly and exponentially in the other direction. We've still got many customers running on-premise platforms, and I don't see that changing entirely over the next 5-10 years. I still think that a lot of enterprises will still be operating local platforms to some degree. But we're also now seeing the adoption of cloud, and even more so now multi-clouds or multiple public clouds in addition to the on-premise. If you combine that with the fact that people are still operating VMs, they're still operating containers, they're now moving into functions and serverless, the poor IT guy, the man in the middle, as we refer to it, is now having to operate multiple environments and use multiple tool sets. So it's very, very difficult for him to manage all of these tools, get technical context to any issues, and also get business context to any of the issues that have been created. So what OpsRamp is trying to do is solve this man in the middle problem and actually drive doing business value through IT. So how do we do that? In short, there's three key areas of focus. The first one is discovery and monitoring, event and incident management, and remediation and automation. And the scope for us to do this is on the left-hand side. So it can be synthetic monitoring, things like websites. It can be applications, databases, public cloud, and on-premise. And on-premise to us means pretty much anything from network assets to storage arrays to servers. So we're not just limited to the server or the operating system and or hypervisor. We stretch beyond into the network and storage environment as well. So yeah, doing a few points to take away from this. The key one here is a platform. One thing you'll see with OpsRamp is we're not a point solution. We are not a monitoring tool. We're not an event and incident management. We are a platform. Customers can just take these modules, but the real value for us comes in when you're integrating right the way across these three core products. The other key thing as well, and this is relevant to service providers and global enterprise, is we were built out of a service provider. Our conception was solving the challenge that a service provider has. So we've been built from the ground up to support multi-tenancy, and that's multi-tenancy. So that's relevant, as you can clearly imagine, for MSPs, but more so for enterprises who maybe have different divisions or different regions or different countries. So there's value in that you only need to do things at the top layer, and we can then filter those rules. We can filter the configuration down to any of the subtenants below. And really, what are we trying to solve? I mean, it's all about how can we understand, what incidents you've got, what the root cause of those incidents, how can we automate the fix, so I fix them faster, but also give business context to those issues. So, the next stage then is, for us, everything starts with the discovery and the monitoring of these environments. So we hook in an API layer to public cloud. We're hooking at an API layer to products like VMware, vCenter, and many others. We can deploy gateway devices on premise or in the cloud, and we can clearly deploy agents as well. Agents for VMs is often the preferred method just because it's more secure and we can get more information. But what we do is we discover all of these platforms. The discovery is automatic and it's powered by our AI engine. So we discover all of those assets, and if we've got an agent installed, we'll even discover what services and what software is running within those VMs themselves.
I would assume you can automate the agent deployment as well within that environment.
Correct, yeah. Well, if you're running on a public cloud, you're hooking at an API layer, and we've discovered everything that you ask us to discover. The automation, so the agent deployment, you typically roll that out using your existing automation tools as well. So the next thing that we do, when we're discovering, and this it creates a nice picture, but what we're actually doing here is we're actually discovering not just what is running, but how are these systems, be it applications, be it switches, be it servers, how are they all interconnected? So we'll take all of this information and we can use it to populate a CMDB or be part of that automation of a CMDB population. But really, for me, this is all about understanding the interactions, understanding the interdependencies of systems and applications. Because if we're looking at identifying root cause of an outage, it's critical that the system understands how all of these things are connected together. The other thing that we'll do is we'll start working with customers to build service maps. So this is giving you the technical interdependency context. This is more the logical layer. So we can then actually start looking at how are my key mission critical business systems configured? If I lose a component, will that have an impact as in an outage, or will it just be a degraded service? So we can actually start to build up a map of key line of business systems.
I would assume there's two places for that. There's one internal view within the organisation to understand how the business services are being impacted, but potentially if you're delivering a service to a third party, you could also give those a view of it from that perspective as well.
Well, yeah, because they in an ideal world would have a tenant within your platform, and they would be able to see a dashboard similar to this, looking at a very, very high level as, how is my HR system or my ERP or my finance system or my banking system operating? Is it available? Is it green? Is it degraded? And if it is degraded or down, how can I click through to actually see where the issue is coming from? So we can create these dashboards for line of business guys, but we can also create dashboards that give technical context to relevant technical teams. We could have a DBA team seeing the performance of the database platforms, or the DevOps guys looking at the performance of the container clusters and the individual containers within those container environments. So we can customize. These are drag and drop widgets. We can customize these dashboards, or the client can customize these dashboards in whichever way suits them. So the next point that for me is a really important value proposition of OpsRamp is once we've done this discovery and we've understood how all of these systems over here are all talking to each other, how they behave, how they interact. The interesting thing then is, okay, what do we do with these alerts? So if something goes wrong, we're getting alerts from multiple systems. The great thing is with OpsRamp is we do our own monitoring. However, if a customer already has another monitoring tool, and we can't monitor absolutely everything. So they may have a tool that does something that we can't do, or they may have made a significant investment in another tool. Fantastic. We treat third-party monitoring tools no differently than our own. So we'll push all this monitoring data into our sausage machine here, and then we'll do some correlation. And this is where the AI platform will learn this itself. It's not something where we have to go and create rules. So it is true ML, so it's machine learning rather than just the broader AI brush. So we'll look at these alerts and we'll correlate them in multiple ways. It could be, if I use an example of a switch going down, the switch could go down and we'll see alerts coming through multiple times. With our platform, we will correlate that and we'll just give you one alert. So we'll understand that it's the same issue, it's just repeating. But if that switch knocks out 15 servers, 1,500 guest OSs on the hypervisor and so on, we're going to be getting a huge volume of alerts coming through typically. What our system will then do is correlate and understand that this is a network issue. So we'll roll those up into a correlated incident. We can do other things, and we could talk about this all day, Lee, but the other things we can do is we can do things like noise suppression. If the platform starts to understand that every Friday a certain SQL system is at 100% of CPU, there, and we kick an alert off because it's breached the threshold. If it keeps getting suppressed, maybe there's a batch run happening. Our platform will learn that behavior and then start to automatically suppress those alerts. So we can significantly reduce that volume of incidents down. The next thing we can do is, so we've taken the incidents from thousands to hopefully tens or 100. We've taken those into that volume of incidents right down. And now we can look at doing some clever things with it. So we could look at automatic remediation. That's through runbooks. And right now we do Ansible. We'll integrate with Ansible as well. So we can kick off Ansible workflows, maybe reboot a server or a storage volume is filling up. So for a VM, we can maybe expand that storage volume and flush out the temp files. So it means without human intervention, that system, that alert has been closed. We could also update the CMDB or update a ticket to say what we've done. So, particularly with a product like Ansible, the flexibility is borderline infinite there. So, reduce the volume of incidents down significantly, and then we've automatically resolved hopefully a good proportion of those incidents. The final thing is the one in the middle that we can start to, the platform again will then start to learn, using my example of that network issue. We've got 1,000 alerts from different systems, but we know that it's a network problem. The system will know which team fixes that network issue, so we can automatically escalate that network problem to the right team. And we can do that through ITSM integration. We're not an ITSM, but we've got a very open API, an open platform, so we can hook into, I don't know, ServiceNow or Topdesk or whatever that may be, or ServiceWorks. We can hook into them and raise a ticket. We could send an SMS, an email, or if it's 3 a.m. and it's a P1, we can actually even phone somebody, because I know I'd ignore an SMS. But if it's 3 a.m. and my phone's ringing, I'll probably do something about it.
Yeah, I might not intentionally ignore it because I might be just fast asleep. But definitely a phone call will be more of an alert.
Absolutely. And really, just to think about, okay, what is the reality of this? So I'll just build this slide. And for me, this is a real world customer example, a service provider, where we've reduced the volume of incidents that they've seen. Sorry, we've reduced the volume of alerts that they've seen each week by over 80%. But for me, the really important metric here is this customer was managing over 4,000 incidents each month. And after deploying OpsRamp, they were now managing 129. And I know from my time in my previous role that 4,000 incidents where human beings have to manage, understand the problem and manage that problem, that's an awful lot of people. If we can turn that down to 129, those guys can actually be spending time innovating and driving value into the business rather than managing tickets. The very final piece, and I'll cover this quite quickly, Lee, is I mentioned automation already. So we can deliver runbook and Ansible automation to start resolving issues or kicking off workflows. The other thing that we can do as well, if we've got the agent deployed on a Windows server or a Linux server, we can actually understand, okay, do you mean, are these systems patched? We'll look against your patch repositories to understand, are they compliant against your patch schedule? And if they're not, we can actually be a patch enforcement engine to ensure that those systems are patched within your specified change window. And the reason this is interesting, it almost sounds like this is a bolt-on, but if you think, a lot of issues are caused by systems not being patched. So if we can give businesses visibility to what is patched, what isn't patched, and then automate the patch deployment, that can hopefully reduce the number of incidents down the line. The other thing we do through our platform is we can actually give secure remote access. So people can actually log into VMs or RDP, or I mean, they can open sessions up to actually do remote remediation for switches or servers. And also thinking patching is helping compliance, but we can also record those sessions to help compliance in a slightly different way. I mentioned before that we're open, and this for me, this is a snapshot of the logos that we integrate with. So we can integrate with multiple monitoring tools. It could be Dynatrace, it could be AppD, it could be Nagios. So again, you don't need to rip out your existing tools. You can integrate OpsRamp with them. We integrate, I mean, what we hate and despise is anybody having to do anything twice. So if you add in data into our system, we don't want you to have to do that then in ServiceNow or BMC. We have bi-directional integration into all of these platforms and others. And if we don't have integration, our API is open, we can look at creating it. Same with authentication and collaboration. If we wish to raise tickets to the DevOps team through Slack or other means, we can do that as well. So, I mean, really, I mean, we struggle to find something that we haven't, I mean, that we can't integrate with. So it's a very, very open platform. So people aren't ripping and replacing, and we can integrate truly into the existing operating environment. And really, I mean, what does it actually mean to our clients? What does it mean to our service providers and enterprises? It's all about how can we take that volume of incidents right down? I mean, typically we're seeing well over 80%. How can we, once we've got these fewer incidents, how can we resolve those issues? How can we help them identify the root cause and escalate the issues through to the right people? So we're actually improving the mean time to recovery or the mean time to resolution. And we're seeing a lot of customers making significant savings using our platform. That can be, I mean, consolidation and sunsetting of tools, but it can also be, I mean, the operational savings that you can make through actually moving the needles around mean time to resolution. And the great thing is our clients, this isn't a 6, 12, 18-month deployment. We can install the platform quickly, and customers don't need to rip and replace those tools, so they can integrate us quickly and hopefully see that value in a much shorter period of time.
How long would you anticipate? Yeah, how long would you anticipate it for a deployment then for a typical customer, and for them to see value?
It's a really difficult one. I mean, if we've got integrations with multiple different systems where we've not seen before, I mean, it could be a couple of weeks to a couple of months. I mean, for me, we can, and it really depends on what level of professional services engagement we're doing. But you're never talking months.
I'm going to say
the great thing is we can get the base platform installed quite quickly. And once the system's learning, so the AI algorithms are actually learning and understanding the environment, we can usually see value in a few weeks, typically no more than a month, where the system will actually start to learn that behavior and customers will really start to see value out the back of it.
So that sounds quite quick to me compared to what I've seen in the past, where people have spent 6 to 12, even 18 months to get a platform in place and see some value from it at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we all know some of these tools that people are deploying are pretty complex, and it can take months. And some customers, you see, I mean, I've seen multiple examples where people have put tools in and then they ended up taking them out because they've not seen the value that was promised.
Yeah.
I mean, one good thing with OpsRamp is we put a customer success team in place. So it's our goal to make sure customers not only see value during the implementation, but they see value right the way through their engagement and their contract with us. It's really important that people see success out of our platform.
I think the other thing a lot of people want to know is anybody that they might know who uses the platform. So any particular organizations that you could mention that are current customers?
We've got a few, we've got quite a few that are just under deployment. But if I go back to, I'll just share my screen again. I'll go back to the original slide. Sorry, bear with me. There you go. There's a lot of names on there that I'm sure are familiar with people. So some large financial organisations. Some manufacturers,
Ernst and Young,
airports.
yeah, there's quite a few, very big names that people would know.
Yeah,
Fujitsu, very big, Dolby.
So, yeah, but we're an established company. Some people haven't heard of us and they immediately perceive that we're a startup, but no, we've going since 2014. Financially stable company, still privately owned with some investors. But yeah, we've got a great platform now for growth.
Yeah, I would have thought HPE is quite a good investor because they're also a customer, I believe, as well.
Yeah, HPE uses some of their some of their large managed services environments. So they've been an investor. I think coming up to a year now.
I know we're a bit limited on time today, so any last thing you'd want people to know about OpsRamp and the use of it and the value it brings to an organisation?
For me, I think the key things are if you're operating on premise, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. There are not many technologies out there that do what we do. And for me, as a simple request, if somebody thinks this could be interesting, just let us know. We can give them a more detailed introduction over a 30-40 minute call and arrange a demo to see if what we do can help them. And for me, it's all about delivering and driving these positive outcomes for our clients so they can offer better services to their clients.
I agree. Sometimes you've got to see these things to actually understand how they fit into your own organisation and your infrastructure and workloads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks ever so much for your help today. I know it was a bit last minute getting you on board to do this, and next time I'll give you a little bit more time before we do it. Also, it'd be interesting if the technology is working because it's the first time we've done one to an event rather than LinkedIn Live, so we'll have to check on that. But I've got a recording of it I'll put out afterwards as well to make sure everybody who wants access to it gets access to it as well.
Cool.
All right, thanks ever so much.
All right, thanks, Lee. Take care.